What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel a combo tutorial and test hand video for my Spriggan's Horus deck profile for the post Age of Overlord set, which is officially coming out this Friday at time of recording. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name's Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh that you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We're working our way to 1,500 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. So, with the intro out of the way, let's dive into what you're here to see. Obviously, you saw the title. This is my Spriggan's Horus deck list. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for the deck profile that I uploaded recently. If you haven't watched the profile, please be sure to check it out because I explain a lot of the cards in more detail there than I'm going to here. Today, in this video, we're just here to mainly talk about combos, test hands, and then go over a little bit about why I feel that Horus fits so well with Spriggan's. So, let's get started with that. Well, what is Horus? Well, in shortened term, the package consists of 3 copies of King Sarcophagus, 3 copies of Imseti, Glory of Horus, and then 1 Duomatef, 1 Happy Guidance of Horus, and 1 Cubenicef, Protection of Horus. Hopefully, I'm not butchering the names too badly. But, so you basically play 4 individual Horus names, and you play 3 of the King Sarcophagus, and then the only Horus that you're on a playset of is Imseti. The reason why you play 3 Imseti and 3 King Sarcophagus is because they're effectively the starters to this engine, in a way. Imseti can pitch himself and another card in hand to search for the King Sarcophagus and get you a draw on top of that, while King Sarcophagus can pitch any card in hand to the graveyard and to then send a Horus monster directly to your grave from the deck, and you can do that up to 4 times per turn. Now, what's crazy about this is that all the Horus engine is, in a nutshell, is basically a discard outlet or a discard engine. A lot of people have been downplaying the Horus cards lately, and that's mainly due to the fact that there isn't a deck right now in the format that's really can capitalize on having a discard outlet. The best thing you could probably say is maybe Tier Element, but even then it just seems kind of mid at best. Phantomite is one of the other decks that could take full advantage of these, but Spriggan's is another deck that could take full advantage of these as well. Now, why would Spriggan's be able to take advantage of a discard outlet? Well, it's pretty simple. Spriggan's, for the most part, like, what are you really doing with the Spriggan's monsters in your hand half the time? You're either pitching them off the effect of your Great Sand Sea Gold Golgonda, which is the Spriggan's field spell, or you're just attaching them as Xyz material to a Spriggan's Xyz from your hand. Outside of that, they're not doing anything else for the most part, because you don't really burn your normal summon on them, you know, for the most. And what's interesting is that if you're not pitching them for the field spell, then you're just attaching them to an Xyz as material most of the time. But you have to realize that Spriggan's can still attach themselves to an Xyz from the graveyard as well. So why not just play a package like Horus that can get them to the graveyard, where it doesn't really matter if they're there anyway, while also giving you other pluses. Like, the Horus engine, outside of being a discard outlet, also helps you get to, like, rank 8 plays, which obviously Spriggan's likes because they have rank 8 Xyz monsters, but it also gives Spriggan's the ability to go into rank 8s much easier than before. You can go into cards like Gigantic Champion Sargus now by hard making it with 2 level 8 monsters, something that Spriggan's previously couldn't do easily. You were normally summoning this by overlaying it on top of an existing Spriggan's Xyz a lot of the time. But the fact that now you can use the Horus package to help hard make this card helps increase the deck's consistency overall. Plus, not to mention, the Horus cards in general help insulate the deck, allowing you to make cards like number 90 Galaxy Ass Photon Lord to help you play through monster, hand traps like Nibiru and Ash Blossom, 2 hand traps that this deck has struggled with in the past. So what's interesting is, like I said, the Spriggan's don't really care whether they're in your hand or graveyard, so they pair quite nicely with the Horus cards because they just function as discard outlets, allowing you to dump, Foolish Burial more Horus monsters, which I felt was really cool synergy that a lot of decks don't really have. Plus, not to mention, cards like Spriggan's Brothers, if they're sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, even if it's for cost, he triggers to get his Monster Reborn effect, which is really crazy. So, like, there's actually a really crazy combo you can pull off. If you have Rocky Brothers and, like, an Imseti, for example. This also works if you have King Sarcophagus as well. But here, take a look at this. We'll shuffle real quick. So, like I was saying, I think the Horus package, you know, as of right now, as far as the meta is concerned, there's not many decks that can utilize it. But just because there's not any decks in the meta that can utilize it doesn't mean that the Horus package is bad inherently, like a lot of YouTubers have been saying. I just think it hasn't found the right deck list yet. But, you know, decks like Spriggans can definitely play the Horus package and have it not be a hindrance, like in most other strategies. So, like, take this combo, for example. Yes, I'm more into a 3-card combo, but it doesn't have to be. It can also just be, you know, a 2-card line, but for the purposes of what I want to show you, it's a 3-card line. So let's activate the Imseti, pitching himself and the Rocky from our hand, to then go ahead and add the King Sarcophagus to our hand. And then we'll also get another draw on top of that. Cut the deck. And then draw one off the top. Drew Imperm, that's fine. But now you can go King Sarcophagus, pitching the brothers, to then Foolish Burial another Horus monster from your deck to the graveyard. Hopefully you guys can see my graveyard. Let me just position this a little bit over. There we go. And now, because Spriggan's Brothers was sent from the hand to grave, you can actually trigger its effects to target a Spriggan's monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense. Obviously, King Sarcophagus is activated. The impermanence is in our hand. So now you can revive the Rocky, and then trigger the Rocky effect to target a Spriggan's engrave, except himself, and then add it back to your hand. Which means then you can then go King Sarcophagus again, pitching the brothers a second time, to then get another Foolish Burial of another Horus monster. Now, obviously, Spriggan's Brothers only trigger once, but you can kind of see what I'm getting at here. Like, Spriggan's, you know, when you pitch them for the cost of the Horus cards, whether that's pitching them off King Sarcophagus or off the Imseti effect, you gain a lot of, like, value that you otherwise wouldn't have had. And since a lot of the Spriggan's monsters don't care if they're in the graveyard, some of them even want to be there. Cards like Branga naturally want to be in grave because you can banish the Branga and another Spriggan's monster from grave to give yourself a search for any Spriggan's card. So Branga just wants to be in grave anyway. It was always the Spriggans that when you drew, you would always try to get it out of your hand as fast as possible. So Horus really helps facilitate that in this deck. And that's something that I think a lot of people are overlooking, not just in this strategy, but in other strategies too. You know, that there's tons of cards in this game where they benefit from being in the graveyard, and I think Horus is an amazing package to play. You know, then obviously once you establish the King Sarcophagus, you can just start reviving all of your Horus cards, and then going into rank 8 plays from there. You know, making cards like number 90 Galaxy as Photon Lord to insulate yourself from hand traps before committing to your actual Spriggan's line. So that's one of the reasons why I'm playing Horus in my Spriggan's deck, like I said, and it's the package. It takes up 9 slots, you figure, because it's 3 Imseti, 3 King Sark, and 1 of each of the other Horus monster names. But that's no different than, like, people who are playing the, whatchamacallit, oh, I'm having a lapse right now, the Adventure package. Because that was almost like, early on, people were running, like, about an 8 to 9 card main deck ratio, where you had, like, 3 Rite of Aramesir, 3 Water Enchantress, you had the Draco back, and you had the Wandering Griffin Rider. That's, like, 8 cards, if my math is right. But that, so, like, it takes up a sizable package in the main deck, obviously, so not every deck can afford that. But Spriggans is definitely a deck that has the room for, like, non-engine like this. Plus, not to mention, the Horus cards just give you insane follow-up. Like, the fact that the King Sarcophagus protects them from destruction effects unless they target them makes them very tricky to out. The fact that all the Horus monsters have effects that trigger, you know, when your opponent makes your cards leave by a card effect. You know, Imseti sends a card on the field to grave. Duomotif lets you draw cards. Cubenicif protects your Horus monsters from targeting and from being targeted from attacks. And then Happy allows you to recycle cards from your graveyard that are banished, either back to your hand or back to the deck, which is they're all really beneficial effects. So there's almost no drawback other than cards that are not Imseti and not King Sarcophagus. These, I guess, you would consider the bricks, because when you draw them, they're the only ones that don't do anything. But even then, that's not bad, because Spriggans already has an answer for that when you draw the bricks, so to speak, with Spriggan's Kit. Spriggan's Kit on No More Special Summon allows you to add a branded spell trap from your deck, graveyard, or banish zone to your hand, but then you take a card from your hand and place it on the bottom of your deck. So you pretty much just, like, put back whatever card you don't want to see. So You can even like mulligan your hand a little bit using Spriggan's Kit, who's very searchable in this deck. So even if you do happen to hard open one of these, that, you know, any horse that's not Imseti, it's not even that terrible because Kit allows you to just recycle it anyway. But opening these guys in tandem with Imseti or opening these guys in tandem with King Sarcophagus is also really crazy because then they're just very easy discard fodder for either effect, which makes them really useful in that regard. So hopefully you guys, you know, that gives you a little bit of insight as to why I'm playing the Horus cards in this deck. But now let's get down to the nitty gritty and what you guys are here to see. And that is obviously some combos and test hands. So I'm going to go ahead and pile shuffle this deck here as fast as I can. Like I said, a link in the description below for the deck profile. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, please do so. Also, if you're watching this right now and you're not subscribed, subscribe. It costs you nothing, and all it does is benefit the channel in the long run. So make sure you like the video as well so you don't miss on any more of my content that I upload. I will be doing more post-AGOV content within the next few days. I have a lot more stuff coming to the channel, which you guys don't want to miss, including my update to my Libromancer Mekonko deck and the update to my Melfi Chimera list, since Chimera did get brand new support out of Age of Overlord. And Mekonko Libro indirectly got support as well, which, you know, I'll talk more about once I do those profiles. But like I said, subscribe if you don't want to miss out. So we went ahead and pile shuffled. I'm going to go ahead and cut, and we are going to do our first test hand. Fresh off the cuff, we have Ash, Tally-Ho, Imseti, Spriggan's Rocky, and we have Branded in High Spirits as our opening hand. We're going to play this out like as if we're going first. So let's see here. How do we want to go about this? There's a couple of things we can do actually. This hand isn't all that terrible. So let's go. I guess we can lead things off with Imseti first. We'll go Imseti effect, pitching himself and the Rocky to go ahead and search our copy of the King Sarcophagus to our hand, and then we'll obviously shuffle, have our opponent cut before we get our draw, and then we'll draw our one card off of the Imseti effect, which happens to be the Great Sansi Gold Golgonda. That literally couldn't have been in any better draw. Like, that's absolutely cracked. And now we have a lot of resources that we can use to our advantage. So Branded in High Spirits, we don't need it in hand because the Spriggan's Kit, this is the spell that we search off Kit, she can get it from your graveyard, deck, or banish zone anyway. So this is just free fodder for the King Sarcophagus. So let's go ahead and activate the King Sarcophagus, use its effect, which you can use up to 4 times per turn, sending the Branded in High Spirits from our hand to grave to then Foolish Burial another Horus monster, which can be anyone that we want, really. There's no right or wrong answer here. Let's go ahead and send out a copy of Happy, Guidance of Horus. And now what we can do is we can go Imseti, because we control the King Sarcophagus, we can revive Imseti. And then because we control the King Sarcophagus, we can also revive the Happy from our graveyard for absolutely free. And before committing to our actual Spriggan's line, we can actually do something really interesting. We can overlay these 2 cards, and we can go into either a monster negate in the form of number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, or we can actually hard make our Gigantic Champion Sargus, something that Spriggan's never had the ability to do before until now. So let's just say we go into the Gigantic Champion Sargus. While the Sargus has Xyz material, we can use this effect once per turn to add a Spriggan's or Therion card from the deck to our hand. So we can actually go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Spriggan's Watch. And mind you, this line wouldn't even be possible if it wasn't for the Horus package, which is, like I said, why playing the Horus package in this deck is really insane. So we can now go activate the Great Sand Sea Gold Golgonda. Then, because we control the Great Sand Sea Gold Golgonda, we can now activate Spriggan's Watch from our hand, utilizing its second effect, allowing us to add a Spriggan's Monster from deck to hand, and then if we do, we can send a Spriggan's Monster from deck to grave. So let's see here. We have a Tally-Ho and an Ash in hand. So what do I want to grab? I guess we can grab... Let's go ahead and grab ourselves a Branga to hand, and then we will dump to our graveyard a copy of the kit. Off of our watch. Now what we can do here is a couple of things, actually. Just thinking on how I want to go about this. Let's use our Great Sandseagull Golgonda effect. Let's send our copy of Branga from our hand to the graveyard to then go ahead and special summon a Spriggan's Xyz monster directly from our extra deck since we do not control a Spriggan's Xyz. Note that Gigantic Champion Sargus is not a Spriggan's monster because it does not have Spriggans in the name. Merrymaker effect on summon allows us to send a Spriggan's monster from our deck to the graveyard, which could be a copy of Brothers. That will allow us to trigger the Brothers. We can target our copy of Spriggan's Rocky in a graveyard, special summoning it. Then we can go Rocky effect, targeting a Spriggan's monster in our graveyard except himself and add it to our hand. Let's go ahead and grab the Branga to our hand. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Now we can go King Sarcophagus effect again, pitching the Branga to then send another Horus monster from our deck to the graveyard. So we can go ahead and send out... Let's get rid of our Cubenisef, Protection of Horus. And now what we can do is we can go Rocky if... do we want to do that? Let's see here. Actually, we can go about this a bit differently. Before we do anything else, why don't we do this? Let's activate Tally-Ho Spriggans. We can detach a material, up to 2 materials, or up to 3 technically, but we can detach material from an Xyz monster that we control. So let's detach the Imseti and the Happy from our Gigantic Champion Sargus. Add a Spriggans from deck to hand. Let's just add a Branga. And then we can special summon Spriggan's monsters from our hand or graveyard up to the number of material detached at activation. So let's go ahead and bring out our copy of Kit. And let's bring out our copy of Brothers. Then we can go Chainlink 1 Kit, Chainlink 2 Champion Sargus. Since a material is detached from an Xyz monster, we can target a card on the field. This goes to grave, by the way. Target any card in the field and either destroy it or return it to our hand. Let's go ahead and target our copy of Rocky with our Champion Sargus, returning it to our hand. And then we can go Kit effect to then add a Branded Spell Trap from our deck, graveyard, or banish zone to our hand, which would be High Spirits from grave. And then we take a card from our hand and put it back on the bottom of the deck. I guess that can be... the Branga. We don't really need it right now. It was just a free search that we got. Yes, let's go ahead and shuffle this up. Okay. Then we can go activate the Branded and High Spirits, revealing the Spriggan's Rocky in our hand, allowing us to send a monster from our extra deck to grave that has the same type, in this case Machine, with 2500 attack or defense. So we're going to send Sprin the Iron Dash Dragon here to our graveyard. Then it's up to us. We can either discard the revealed monster to then search for a monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz in text, which would be our copy of Kit, or we can choose to keep the card in hand. I guess we could just pitch it and go ahead and search our copy of Kit just to have it. And Branded and High Spirits will go to the grave. Now, because we have a monster that mentions Albaz in our graveyard, we can actually use Kit's first effect to special summon herself from the hand for free, which is really, really crazy. Then we can go Kit and Kit. Or I guess we can go... Yeah, we'll go Kit and Kit, both Kits. We can just overlay them for a copy of Time Thief Redoer. Keep in mind, we still have the Ash in our hand. Then what we can do is we have our Merrymaker here. Since we already went through our Champion Sargus line, it doesn't make sense to overlay Sargus on Merrymaker. So we can go down a new line of the Armored Xyz cards, which also came out in Age of Overlord. So we can go ahead and take our Merrymaker, go ahead and overlay our Xyz Armor Fortress on top of it. Then we can go Armor Fortress effect by detaching the Merrymaker, allowing us to search for a Armored Xyz card from deck to hand, which will be our full Armored Xyz. Then, because he does not have material underneath him, we can go ahead and use him as Xyz material now, if we so choose, which we will. We can make our full armored Dark Knight Lancer, which also is brand new out of Agov. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'll put it over here, actually, so it's a little more visible. Apologies for the glare. And as you can see, we're pretty much getting our field set up quite nicely. There's a couple of things we can still do here. We can go Branga's Graveyard effect now, banishing itself in another Spriggans. I guess we can pitch our Merrymaker. That's fine. To then search for a Spriggans card from the deck to our hand. Note that we actually haven't normal summoned yet, so we can still do that if we so choose. Or, yeah, how do we want to go about this? Actually, if we don't want a normal summon, we don't have to do that either. We can actually go ahead and grab... Does Branga search any? You can banish this card and a Spriggans monster with a different name from a graveyard, add a Spriggans card from deck to hand. Interesting, I just realized that Branga can let you search another copy of himself, which I actually think I might do. And I'll explain why. That's because we can use our King Sarcophagus effect again, because remember, this is up to 4 times per turn. I believe we've only used it twice so far, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 times. This might be our 4th. We'll activate it, pitching the Branga in hand to the graveyard for follow-up for next turn. And then we can Foolish Burial our last Horus name that we don't have in rotation, which will be the Dual Matef. Then we can go Dual Matef effect to special itself. And we can go Cubenisef effect to special itself. Well, we can't go Happy or Imseti because we already specialed those earlier this turn. But we can still do the Dual Matef and Cubenisef. Now we can keep both of these on field as they are, or we can consolidate them into a rank 8 play, which I think is what we'll end up doing. And we can go ahead and make like a number 90 Galaxy as Photon Lord, or we can make something like a number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, which is obviously really cool as well. Just a matter of what we value. I think we can make the number 38, give ourselves some coverage against spells. And I think with that, we'll set our full Armored Xyz. This card is absolutely nuts, by the way. I explain a little bit of what it does in the deck profile. But this card allows you to Xyz summon during your opponent's turn, which is really nice. In addition to that, it also allows you to banish itself from the graveyard, and you can target an Xyz you control, and then equip an Xyz monster from your field or graveyard to it as an equip, which will trigger the full armored Dark Knight Lancer to then slurp an opponent's monster, which is really crazy. Now that I'm thinking about this, we might hold off on making 38 on our turn. Let me see, do I want to do that? Because we can always make the 38 on their turn. No, you know what? We'll make it on our turn. That's fine. I'm just trying to think how we want to go about this. We can go to our end phase, and what will happen here is end phase, since this card is in the graveyard, this will allow us to either special summon a Spriggans from deck to hand or add a Spriggans from deck to hand. I think I'm going to choose the special summon. Obviously, we'll set our full Armored Xyz, don't forget that. And then we'll special summon a Spriggans directly out of our deck, which will be our Captain Sargus in defense position. And this will basically be our end board. And that was, like I said, off, and then we still have an Ash in hand. Obviously, don't forget, it's the only card we have in hand at this point. But we ended on a full armor Dark Knight Lancer that can slurp an opponent's monster. We still have Gigantic Champion Sargus that's still live. If any material is detached from any Xyz, he can target any card on the field and either return it to hand or destroy it. We have the Time Thief Redoer, who's going to attach the top card of our opponent's deck to himself as material. And then he can also tag out, triggering, you know, the Sargus effect. We also have Captain Sargus, who has a quick effect on the opponent's turn, can detach a material from any Xyz to then target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. And we also have number 38, Hope Harbinger, for the spell negate as well. And we still have the option to use full armored Xyz on the opponent's turn. And like I said, we also have the Ash in hand. And that's just off of that particular test hand. And look at the end board we were able to produce with, you know, Spriggan's Horus. Let's cycle this back and we'll do one more really quick test hand, hopefully, before I wrap up the video. But this is why, like I said, I'm playing Horus with Spriggans, because I think there is a lot of synergy there. The cards, like Spriggans in general, really don't care if they're in the graveyard or in the hand. So why not just consolidate that into value by using Horus as an engine to, you know, not only facilitate getting them to graveyard, but also giving you added benefit with all the Horus monsters, allowing you to make additional rank 8s. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle this one more time. Like I said, link to the description of the deck profile down below. Feel free to watch that, please, if you haven't already. And let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the deck. Obviously, like, you know, there's tons of lines you can also branch down as well. And just overall the resiliency, I think. Like, the fact that now we have so many more engines to play with, like Horus and like the Xyz armor package, allows Spriggans to be a little more resilient in playing through hand traps, which I think is obviously really strong. You know, now we're not so reliant on having our Merrymaker resolve, because if it does get negated, we have fallback options. You know, we have Champion Sargus that we can overlay on top of our Merrymaker. We have the Xyz armor line that we can go down as well. You know, all of which still helps us end on disruptions for the opponent's turn, which I think is really valuable. So let's go ahead and draw Regulus, Brothers, Imseti, Cubenisef, and Tally Ho. So we're playing this out like we're going first again. We'll obviously go Imseti, pitching himself, and the Cubenisef. But this is what I was talking about, where if you draw the Horus that is not Imseti, it's not bad when you also draw Imseti or also draw this in tandem with King Sark. But since we are good at the game, we drew Imseti, so we are going to go ahead and pitch them both, searching out our copy of the King's Sarcophagus, excuse me. And then we'll go ahead and get another draw after we shuffle and cut really quickly. We'll draw into an Imperm. That's fine. Let's go ahead and activate our copy of King's Sarcophagus. Now this is where things get a little interesting, because now we don't have access to our Spriggans line because we don't have the field spell, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. Before, when you played Spriggans, if you didn't have access to Golconda, it was pretty bad. But now we actually have options on what we can do. So let's go ahead and go Sarcophagus effects. Actually, let me think about this. How do I want to do this? You know what? Here. We're going to activate Tally Ho Spriggans. We're going to go ahead and get a search for Branga. Do we want Branga? Oh, this is so tough. No, you know what? Let's search for a Rocky. Do we? No, you know what? No. Hold. We'll go Branga. We will go Branga. King Sarcophagus effect. Sending Branga to grave. To then go ahead and send a Horus monster from our deck to the graveyard, which will be our copy of Happy. Then we can also go King Sarcophagus, pitching our Brothers, to then send another Horus monster from our deck to grave, which will be the final name that we're missing, which is Dumatef. And now we already have all 4 Horus Sons in the graveyard, which is really nice. We still have a Therion King and a Infinite Impermanence in hand. So now we can literally just start reviving all the Sons of Horus. We'll special Dumatef from grave, special Happy from grave, special Cubenisef and Imseti from grave, because we control the King Sarcophagus. And now we literally just get through, 4 free level 8s like that. now we can start doing some interesting stuff here. We can go Imseti and Cubenicef, for example, into a number 90, just so we have a monster negate. Then we can go Duomatef and Happy into our copy of Gigantic Champion Sargas. We'll go Sargas effect to search a Spriggans or a Therion card from deck to hand. That will allow us to get... We'll grab Booty. Or grab the Booty. Oh, that's funny. This game makes me laugh. We'll grab Spriggans Booty off the Sargas effects. We can then activate Booty on field, then use its field effect to send itself to the graveyard to then activate a Great Sand Sea Golganda directly from our deck or graveyard. So there's our Golganda now. Then we can go Branga effect engrave, banishing himself and the brothers to let us search for a Spriggans card, of which we will search for a copy of Watch. Then, because we control the Golganda, we'll activate Watch using Watch's second effect to search for a Spriggans and send a Spriggans. So we add one from deck to hand and then send one from the deck to our graveyard. Let's add a copy of Rocky here. And then we can send a Kit to grave. Then now we have access into our Spriggans line, which was like that hand looked like it was unplayable, right? But this is what I mean. The Horus package just makes this hand much, much better. So now we can go Golganda, pitch Rocky to go ahead and make our copy of Merrymaker. We'll go Merrymaker effect. Now we can send our copy of Spriggans Brothers to the graveyard from the deck. Then trigger the Brothers effect. So we'll send Brothers. We'll go Brothers effect, target Rocky, special Rocky in defense, and then Rocky effect, add Brothers back to our hand. And now, like I said, the world is our oyster pretty much. If we don't want to add the Brothers back, we could also add Kit, if we so choose, and keep Brothers engraved. That might actually be the better, more optimal line. Because what we can do now is we can just normal summon Kit. Since we haven't normal summoned yet, go Kit effect. We can search out our copy of Branded and High Spirits. And then send a card from our hand to the bottom of the deck, so we can just pitch this Imperm. We don't really need it. And then we can go Branded and High Spirits, reveal the Therion King Regulus, send, because Regulus is a machine, it still works whether we have Regulus or the Spriggans. Send the Sprin, the Iron Dash Dragon, and then instead of discarding the Regulus, we'll choose to keep it in hand. Now we can pretty much overlay for a Redoer, our wonderful Time Thief Redoer. We can go Regulus effect to target a Machine Engrave, special summon himself and attach, or not attach, but equip the machine to him as an equip. Obviously, I know you want this engrave. We'll fix this momentarily. We can go Redoer effect. Actually, no. You know what? We're not going to go Redoer effect. We'll leave Redoer right here. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go down our Xyz Armor line again, using the Merrymaker as material. Xyz Armor Fortress. We'll go Fortress to detach and search for our copy of an Xyz Armor card, which will be Full Armored Exceed. Because the material is detached from an Xyz we control, that will trigger the Champion Sargas to target a card on the field or and either destroy it or return it to hand. We'll target our Sprint and destroy it so we can put it back in the graveyard. Then because Xyz Armor Fortress has no material, we can now use it for an Xyz summon for our Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer. And obviously we have the Full Armored Exceed already. We can set it. And then at end phase we can trigger our copy of Sprint to go ahead and special out our Captain Sargas from our deck. And this is, like I said, what the Horus package does for this deck. Look at this end board. We have Gigantic Champion Sargas, King Sarcophagus, Therion King Regulus, who's an Omni, Time Thief Redoer, the Full Armored Dark Knight Lancer. You know, we have the Captain Sargas to pop, Champion Sargas to pop or bounce. We have the Monster Negate with number 90. Redoer, you know, he's just a wild card on his own. It really depends on what he attaches from the top of the opponent's deck to himself. At minimum, he can tag out you know, and trigger our champion targets either way. And we also have the ability to use full armored exceed to potentially exceed summon a monster on our opponent's turn as well, which is really, really cracked. So that's going to wrap up our combos and test hands for Spriggan's Horus post Age of Overlord. Like I said, these Horus cards are really, really insanely strong, and I think they make a really good home in Spriggan's overall. So yeah, like I said, if you guys want to see this deck in a live duel on the channel, then get this video to, let's say 40 likes. We'll be a little conservative. Get it to 40 likes, and I will bring you guys a live duel showcasing what this deck can do in action on the channel. So like I said, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Stay tuned for more awesome Age of Overlord content coming your way. This is Nick, hitting that end phase. Peace.